Hey guys, it's Mrs. Burley. I had this new idea and I thought we could try it out. What I realized is that when you guys are absent, you come and get a paper, but a lot of times those papers don't make too much sense because you missed what we talked about in class. So what I thought I would try to do is at the end of every class, I would actually summarize, I guess, what we talked about through a short video where I can actually walk us through the worksheet and mention the things that we talked about at each point. So on Monday, which was February 10th, we actually introduced a new topic for the class. Now, we started talking about goals that we had for ourselves. And I don't mean like what do we want to be when we grow up, but where can we find improvement for ourselves? What would we want to improve about ourselves in the next 15 years? So, for example, I said that I don't really think I live a very healthy lifestyle. I don't eat well. I don't exercise. In the next 15 years, I would like to be on a better, healthy diet and exercising, 3 days a week or something like that. Another student actually was very honest. He said that when he was a young child, he was bullied, and it actually made him want to just become very quiet. He said he found that when he was quiet, people wouldn't pick on him as much. So he sort of wasn't able to make friends at that point. So he said in the next 15 years he wants to change this, and he wants to be more social and outgoing and try to foster more relationships with people, which I thought was amazing. So anyway, this conversation took us to our next topic, which was, what goals would you set for the world if you could do such a thing? Now, we started by brainstorming the things that are wrong with the world. So people mentioned the environment, whether it's pollution or global warming, lack of access to clean water, disease, homelessness, poverty, hunger, conflict, slavery, inequality, things like this. So the goals that we wrote up really focused on those topics. We'd like to clean up the environment. We would like to feed the hungry. We would like to cure some of these diseases, or at least prevent some of these diseases. So the reason why we did this is because the UN, the United Nations, which, if you remember, is an organization that actually has representatives from countries around the world, and those representatives sit down and try to solve world problems, or at least discuss them. Anyway, in the year 2000, they sat down, they looked at the state of the world, and they said, okay, where do we need improvement? And then what we did, before I gave too much away, we watched a short video that explains this in more detail. So we can watch that here. All right, so I think that's a fantastic video. A couple typos. I think it might have been a student project or something, but still very well done. And I like it because it's kind of like an infographic that actually is a video too. So you know I love my infographics. All right, so anyway, then what we did is we talked about the 8 goals. I kind of described them very briefly. So number 1, to eradicate poverty and hunger. And when we talk about poverty, we actually mean people who are living on less than $1 a day. And when we talk about hunger, it's simply people who are hungry. So they wanted to reduce that number.
Please, pardon interruption. At this
Sorry about that. That's the only problem with trying to record in school. You never know what's going to disrupt things. All right, so the second one is to achieve universal education for all. As we've talked about very briefly, we're going to go into more detail this marking period, but a lot of people don't have access to education. And while you might think that they're very lucky because they don't have to go to school, they actually don't have any opportunities as a result of not being able to go to school. So not so lucky. The third is to help with women's equality, to help get them on equal standing as men in terms of their opportunities around the world. Next, to reduce child mortality. We have a shocking number of children who are dying, especially before the age of 5, so we want to tackle that. The goal number 5 actually has to do with maternal health, trying to help women make it through pregnancy and childbirth. Number 6 is to combat HIV, AIDS, malaria, and other diseases. And when we talk about diseases in this particular instance, in terms of the MDGs, I should say, we're referring to preventable diseases. So we're not necessarily looking for cures, but we're looking to stop the spread of these diseases. We've managed to do so in our own country. Now we want to help other countries who don't have equal access to resources and health care. For number 7, we're talking about the environment. And we're not going to get into too much detail with this because the 4th marking period, we're solely focusing on the environment and sustainable development. So for our purposes, we're just talking about this very briefly. And then the last one is to foster a global partnership for development. The thing is you've got countries where there are people hungry and there are people who don't have homes and there are people who are dying in great numbers and children who are dying and an environment that is unlivable. But these people don't have the resources to get them out of this situation themselves. So they need help, and that's why we need businesses to get involved. So that's the 8th goal. All right, I think that's just about it. So what we're going to do is tomorrow we're going to actually get into the 1st goal, poverty and hunger. And again, if you're not here, check the homework calendar because there'll be a video up to explain what you missed. All right, guys, thanks a lot.